Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tor State of the Onion 2021. We are very happy to have you join us for another series of updates from Tor's teams as well from organizations that are part of our community. Usually, we will have Isabela Vagueros, our Executive Director at the Tor Project, opening this State of the Onion. As Isa is having issues connecting from Brazil, today you have me. I'm Gaba, the Project Manager at Tor, and I'm very happy to be presenting the State of the Onion this year. I'm also talking to you from Latin America, and I'm here to introduce our program for the night. Today, you will hear updates about the work of David versus Goliath, literally. We're a small nonprofit organization with only 30 people on staff doing the work that companies with thousands of employees do. We are deploying Tor browser on all desktop platforms and on Android. We have thousands of people running relays and contributing bandwidth to the Tor network for millions of users all around the world to use. We are constantly working to ensure our software is secure and our network is healthy. We are building top-of-the-line censorship circumvention tools. We are on the ground meeting our users to collect their feedback and educating new users. At the first part of our program today, you will hear about this incredible work being done by incredible people from the Tor Project teams. And for the second part, you will hear updates from our friends from the community who are also doing an amazing job with very little resources. Like everyone else, 2021 has become the year of resilience, of building back from 2020. I'm very happy to say that we at Tor are indeed in bouncing back. We have been lucky enough for all the support we received that got us here, all supporters and new ones. I want to give a special shout out to the DAO crew and our NFT artists for their support. If I start to talk about all the bumps that we had on our road, all the challenges we overcome, this stream will probably become a novella with many episodes, and we don't want that. So I want to use this opportunity to just highlight one thing at Tor and at our community, the people. We have said this before, and we will always repeat it because we truly believe in it. The people at Tor and at our community makes the whole difference. The faces you will see presenting today are folks who are doing an enormous amount of work, and there are many more that are equally amazing and dedicated that you will not see today. Somehow, our values and our missions, this David versus Goliath work, attracts the best that is out there. I'm particularly excited for the new folks that join our team. Welcome. 2021 was a hiring year for us, and we're still hiring. You can check our website, torproject.org. We are humbled to have so many skilled people from all around the world joining our team. I hope that their updates will also inspire you, because your support is also what makes all of this possible. And of course, you can continue the support by making a donation at donate.torproject.org. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Cecilia, the lead of our censorship circumvention team. Thank you. Cecilia?
Hello. Hi. I suppose it's fitting to start the State of the Onion talking about anti-censorship tools, which is how many people first get access to the Tor network. So our main goal in the anti-censorship team is to make sure that Tor is accessible to everyone, regardless of where they are connecting from, and regardless of whether those who have control or own the internet infrastructure that they're connecting through want Tor to be blocked. So we detect where Tor is blocked. It's sort of a back and forth thing. and develop tools that help users evade this blocking. These tools could be a number of special Tor relays that aren't publicly listed that we distribute to users, the software we use to distribute these relays, and also obfuscating tools that change the look and shape of Tor traffic to make it look like not Tor. And we do this thanks to a very large network of volunteers. We have thousands of people running Tor proxies and relays. And we also have many, many people who work on developing the code that we use for these tools, doing research on the next best ways to evade censorship, and also participating in contributing to the knowledge we have of where and how Tor is being blocked and how to safely use Tor in many situations. So the work that we do has many different aspects, but today I'm going to talk about a few things that we've done over the last year and things we're looking forward to that we're really excited about. So the first big thing that happened this last year was we shipped one of our new pluggable transports called Snowflake in stable versions of Tor browser. Snowflake is a pluggable transport that has two different aspects to it. It will modify Tor traffic to make it look more like WebRTC traffic. And it also has users connecting in a peer-to-peer way to thousands of Snowflake proxies that can be ephemeral, located all over the world. And so here's some of our privacy-preserving Tor metrics that we've seen since we shipped Snowflake into stable versions of Tor browser. We've seen the usage of Snowflake grow to significantly over the last few months. And we hope that it continues to grow, and a lot of what we're doing going forward is improving the performance of Snowflake and making sure that it scales well with increased use. So as I mentioned before, one of the interesting aspects of Snowflake is that users are connecting to the Tor network through peers. Snowflake allows volunteers to run Snowflake proxies from a web extension in a browser. This is very different from our more traditional Tor relays that usually require a beefy server setup. And as a result, we've had a massive amount of Snowflake proxies join the network. We have, at the moment, over 12,000 unique Snowflake IPs and distributed all over the world. So if you're running a Snowflake proxy, thank you. And if you're interested, you can find the add-on in the Mozilla and Chrome add-on stores. So once we have good circumvention tools, we also need to know how best to use them and how to communicate with our users which tools they should use and how they should configure these tools. This is a large part of our ongoing work. And a part of that work is just learning more about how censorship happens and how Tor is being blocked. And we do this in a variety of different ways. And it's one thing that we're spending more resources on going forwards, being smarter about our anti-censorship setup. So one of the things we've been doing recently is setting up dedicated probes in places that experience a very high level of censorship. These probes can give us detailed network information about how Tor is being blocked that we can then use later to develop better tools to circumvent this blocking. We also, as I showed earlier, have privacy-preserving Tor usage metrics. So we can break it down by which tool people are using and which country they're connecting from. This is often one of the first sources of information we have when Tor is being blocked that can then allow us to reach out to communities in those places. We also collaborate with other projects that do censorship measurement, such as UNI, and researchers in this space. So this censorship measurement has already paid off a lot. One of the things that we've learned in the last few years is that many of our bridges are blocked by IP address instead of being blocked by the actual transport protocol. And so one of the techniques that we're hoping to try out in the next year to counteract this blocking is doing a more agile rotation of bridge IP addresses. So this will pertain to bridges we distribute and bridges we build into applications like Tor browser, making sure that users are constantly receiving fresh entry points to the Tor network. And finally, I want to highlight something that Meskio, one of the anti-censorship team members, has been working a lot on recently in collaboration with other teams at Tor, such as the UX and community teams, which is taking our knowledge of what works where and actually making it available to users. So this pertains to actually any application that ships with Tor. Our goal is to construct a mapping geographically of where different kinds of Tor anti-censorship tools work, and to make this mapping available to not just Tor browser, but other projects that have users in censored areas. So yeah, that's a general recap of some main anti-censorship team projects, and I'll hand it back to Gaba.
Thank you so much, Cecilia. Thank you also for all the work you're doing. Next, we are going to have Richard. Richard is the applications team developer, and he has a recorder session about Tor Browser 11 release and what we are going to expect for the 11.5.
Hi, my name is Richard Pospisil. I'm a member of the applications team here at the Tor Project, and I work on Tor Browser. Today we're going to go over who we are in the applications team, what Tor Browser is, the work we did in 2021, and also go over how you can help us. So first up, who are we on the applications team? We're a pretty small team. Currently it is just the three of us on the applications team, Matthew, myself, and Nicholas. We do have a new hire starting soon though. So while we write and maintain Tor Browser patches, we also collaborate closely with other Tor Project teams such as Anticensorship, UX, networking, etc. So what is Tor Browser? Fundamentally, Tor Browser is just Firefox, with some changes. We start with a fork of Firefox's extended support release branch. We apply about 60 to 100 browser patches depending upon where we are in the development cycle. We define new defaults for various Firefox preferences to maximize user privacy. We add additional functionality through various Firefox extensions, Tor Launcher, Tor Button, NoScript, and HTTPS everywhere. And of course, we add in the Tor daemon and pluggable transports. I've probably left out some other important bits, but that's more or less the important things, which make Tor Browser Tor Browser. What did we do in 2021? Well, we released two major Tor Browser releases, 10.5 and 11.0. We integrated the Tor daemon bootstrapping directly into the browser UI rather than having a separate Tor Launcher pop-up. We added Snowflake support for Android. We added various cryptocurrency usability and security enhancements. And we deprecated v2 onion service sites. So those are all of the changes your typical end user will see, but that isn't the whole story. Tor Browser has a lot of dependencies, libraries, programs, extensions, build tools, etc. Throughout the year, we need to make sure everything is kept up to date with the latest supported versions and fix any breakage which may occur. Every so often, Mozilla releases unscheduled security updates for Firefox. We also need to pay attention to these updates and backport any relevant changes to Tor Browser. The transition from Tor Browser 10.5 to Tor Browser 11 involved an upgrade from ESR 78 to ESR 91. We had to update and sometimes rework all of our aforementioned browser patches to apply cleanly and correctly to the ESR 91 Firefox codebase. The difference between ESR 78 and ESR 91 is about a year's worth of changes. During each ESR major version upgrade, we go through all of the tickets resolved between the ESR versions and audit the patches which look like they may not be compatible with Tor Browser's privacy guarantees. We disable or patch out anything we discovered there that could be problematic. The new Firefox ESR also brought along a new UI design language, which we have tried to match in Tor Browser where we have our own custom Chrome. Our UX lead Duncan will go over this in detail in the next presentation. So how can you help? Download the latest alpha and help test our changes before they are pushed out in major releases. It is incredibly helpful to have a diverse set of users trying out our software to help discover and reproduce issues. And if you find a bug, please report it. This support page goes over all of the various ways you can report bugs to the development team. Finally, come join the development community. The Tor Project's development teams all collaborate in the Tor Dev IRC channel on OFTC. If you're a dev, please come join us if you want to contribute patches. We are also more than happy to talk to and work with end users, especially when they can reliably reproduce weird bugs. Okay, that's it for me. Next up, we should have Duncan from the UX team discussing all the cool stuff they've done this year. Thanks.
Perfect. Yes, that is right. Now we have Duncan. Duncan is the product manager and UX team lead. Go ahead, Duncan. Thank you.
Thanks, Gaba, and hello everyone. I'm Duncan, also known as Donuts, and I'm delighted to share with you today some of the achievements made by the user experience and design team in 2021. As Richard has said, this year saw two major releases for Tor Browser. Tor Browser 10.5 was released in July with a focus on improving the experience of connecting to Tor. Prior to Tor Browser 10.5, the Tor launcher served as the first point of configuration when connecting to the Tor network. However, during user testing, the connection experience itself was often highlighted as a pain point, with users finding the Tor launcher in particular confusing. Ultimately, we decided to close the gap and embed the connection experience directly in the browser window, simplifying both the user journey and interface in the process, and providing a comparable user experience on both desktop and Android. What's more, this change serves as a foundation we can build upon to improve access to the internet for censored users in future iterations of Tor Browser. Another feature introduced in Tor Browser 10.5 was the addition of Snowflake in a stable release for the very first time. Snowflake is a new type of pluggable transport designed by the Anticensorship team to defeat internet censorship, now included as a built-in bridge option in the Tor settings menu on both desktop and Android. Our second major release of the year, Tor Browser 11, has just been made available for download, and is our first release based on the Firefox 91 ESR. Earlier this year, Firefox's user interface underwent a significant redesign aimed at simplifying the browser Chrome, streamlining menus, and featuring an all-new tab design. This new release marks the debut of the new design in Tor Browser. To ensure it lives up to the new experience, each piece of custom UI in Tor Browser has been modernized to match Firefox's new look and feel. That includes everything from updating the fundamentals like color, typography, and buttons, to redrawing each of our icons to match the new thinner icon style. In addition to the browser Chrome itself, the connection screen, circuit display, security levels, and onion site errors all received a sprucing up too, featuring some small but welcome quality of life improvements to each. Last year, we announced that V2 Onion services would be deprecated in late 2021. And since its 10.5 release, Tor Browser has been busy warning users who visit V2 Onion sites of their upcoming retirement. Well, at long last, that day has finally come. V2 Onion services are no longer reachable in Tor Browser 11, and users will receive an invalid Onion site address error instead. So what's next for Tor Browser? Well, as mentioned, the user experience and applications teams have been hard at work extending Tor Connect to provide a mostly automated solution to circumvent censorship, dubbed Connection Assist. Also, recognizing that the current experience of manually adding and sharing bridges can be confusing, we're exploring ways in which we can make bridge configuration easier within Tor network settings for those who are experiencing censorship that Connection Assist cannot overcome. However, none of this product work would be possible without our ethical user research program, which reaches out to human rights defenders across the Global South. In 2021, our researchers continue to face the challenges felt throughout the world by the COVID-19 pandemic. Despite this, we still managed to conduct remote user testing in India and Uganda, with further research scheduled to happen in Brazil later this month. Also, with the help of Internews fellow Jose Gutierrez, we managed to reach Tor users in Costa Rica too. In addition to our user testing, we conducted interviews aimed at learning more about the challenges faced regarding digital safety during the pandemic in Guatemala, Colombia, Brazil, Uganda, and Tanzania. User experience team member Nahira Lamos also completed her Bertha Foundation Fellowship this year. Nahira's work focused on providing training for and researching the use of Tor Browser and mobile devices during the extreme connectivity conditions faced by indigenous communities and human rights defenders in the Amazon. In order to extend the reach of our ethical user research program during the pandemic, the user experience team also conducted 3 major user surveys throughout the course of the year, each of which were recruited for via email lists, social media, and banners displayed on Tor Browser's homepage. Ahead of Snowflake's first stable release in Tor Browser 10.5, we hosted a survey designed by the Anti-Censorship team to collect feedback on Snowflake's user experience and performance in Tor Browser Alpha. We also launched the Tor Browser User Survey, which received over 50,000 complete responses detailing how and why our users use Tor Browser, as well as including plentiful qualitative feedback about their user experience for the entire team. As observed in previous years, the number of Tor users connecting via mobile devices continued to grow in 2021. One common request throughout our user research has been for an application that can route a user's entire device through Tor, rather than a single browser. In response to this growing use case, we launched our third survey of the year in October, with an aim to understand more about the reasons why and ways in which people use VPN-style products. And while we're still crunching the data we collected, we're delighted to share that it received over 45,600 full responses in just 3 weeks. Now, for those of you who have been paying attention, this next part won't come as much of a surprise. However, I'm excited to announce the Tor VPN project, a collaborative effort between the Tor Project and the Guardian Project, developers of the popular app Orbot, to bring a new Tor-powered VPN to Android. But this is just the beginning of the journey for the Tor VPN. And for now, back to Gaba.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Duncan. So our next presenter is Matt Finkel. He's the application team's lead. Okay. Matt, you're there? Yes. Waiting for you. Can we hear you?
Yeah, sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Perfect.
All right,
Yes,
perfect.
we can hear you. You're ready to go.
All right. Let's see. All right. Hi, everyone. Sorry about that. Accidentally closed my tab. So let's see. Should be good. All right. So I'm Matt. I am the team lead for the applications team, and I'm extremely excited to be able to talk with you today about this new project. As Duncan was just mentioning, we are starting a new project. We're calling it the VPN project, but don't assume that this is specifically a VPN. This is just the simplest way that we've found to talk about it and refer to it, and the entire project itself will evolve over time. But with that being said, I'm extremely excited to be able to talk with you about this today, about this recent work that began this year. And it comes about by us taking a step back and looking at the products that we provide. And so Tor Browser has been our core project for nearly a decade, but the world has changed a lot over the last couple of years. And we recognize that Tor must evolve as well. And so a web browser doesn't meet everyone's needs, especially on Android, where apps provide a rich experience. Tor Browser does its job very well, but we need to really look at whether we can better help people on their devices. And so this has led us to begin working on the next evolution of Tor on Android, where we can better help users where they are. This doesn't mean that we're developing a magical anonymizing filter tunnel. So don't expect that this app will look at app traffic and remove identifiable information. You as the user will need to continue being careful about which apps you use and what information they have access to. But we are building on Orbot's successes. Orbot has millions of users, and it has shown the importance of supporting users in more ways than just web browsing. We are building on these successes and improving the experience at the same time. And so what you can expect is basically an improved version of Orbot, and then maybe a little bit more. So the ability to route entire device traffic through Tor, but also the ability to route specific app traffic through Tor. And with this, we'll be providing anti-censorship, censorship circumvention functionality to more devices than just the web browser. But with this process, it takes time, and we're progressing slowly and carefully because this is a whole new world for us. As Duncan mentioned, we're using user research to guide our design and development. We're working with Guardian Project, the developers of Orbot, and Leap on this project. Each group brings a diverse set of experiences and knowledge, and together we're working on building a solution that better meets users' needs. And Orbot's not disappearing. It will continue being developed and help people in other ways. We're also building on top of the new Tor Rust implementation, Arty, from the very beginning. You'll hear more about Arty later on today. And as we work on this project, we're also looking at all of the new anonymity and privacy risks. As I mentioned, this is a whole new world, and it is our mission, or part of our mission, to always be honest about how our products protect users and what users can expect. And we always build the safest products that we can. And so with that, we are taking a very slow approach and investigating various new challenges in this new environment. However, with risks comes some reward. We're extremely excited about adding new features and functionality during this process. And as one example, we're investigating adding support for tunneling apps UDP traffic through the Tor network as part of this project. So when will this be available? Not anytime soon, unfortunately. We're just getting started, and it's going to take time for us to understand what we're building and how best we can build it and protect our users. And so we expect we'll have a better idea of its availability by around this time next year, but we're aiming to have a working prototype on Android sometime in 2023. As for desktop, that's going to take a little bit longer because we're only focusing on Android right now, but we do expect that we'll bring this to desktop in the future as well. And so with that, thank you for your time, and I hope you're as excited about this as we are. So back to you, Gaba.
Thank you so much, Matt. Yes, we are excited. Before going to the next speaker, Gus, our community lead, I just want to call that Tor is a nonprofit, and if you think that this work is important, a donation will make a difference. Your donation will be matched by Friends of Tor. You just go to the donate.torproject.org. Thank you. And now, Gus. Gus is our community team lead. Feel free to go.
Hello. Thank you, Gaba. And today I will talk a little bit about the Tor community and what we have been doing this year and what we want to do next year. So this year we launched a new user support forum, and I will talk about this soon. We also did some Tor trainings in the Global South, and we organized some Tor meetups. We had the Docs Hackathon. It was a campaign to improve Tor user documentation. And we also have some Tor localization activities like Tor Hangouts, where users can talk, where translators can talk to other users, and so on. And for 2022, I will talk about that later. So the first thing about Tor user support is that we used to do Tor user support by email and with our user documentation. And we thought, well, we could improve that situation, creating a community where people help each other, you know. So this is where the idea came from. So we launched the forum, and it's very new. We launched this month, and we even have a dark mode for people that enjoy dark things. And we also have organized some Tor trainings in the Global South with human rights defenders. So we organized trainings in Brazil, Guatemala, Mexico, Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. And basically because of the pandemic, we organized just trainings online, but we also had a training in our first face-to-face training some weeks ago, wearing masks and everyone was vaccinated. So we are building this community of digital security trainers to teach others about Tor. And we have these materials ready on the community portal, and you can download and use for your Tor trainings. But we also have your Tor trainings materials, so training materials that developed by the community, and we selected that and put on the community portal. So you can also use these training materials. And this month we are starting Run a Bridge campaign. Today we are going to launch actually today this campaign, and we have around 900 bridges, and we want to increase that almost 200 or 200 something. So if you want to help Tor sensor users in different countries, you can run a bridge, and you can get some cool swags for running a bridge. So we are launching this campaign, and you can check on our Tor blog after the State of the Onion. And some localization highlights. The Emma Peel, our coordinator, translator coordinator, she organized some localization hangouts. It happens every third Friday of the month, and you can join and can talk with other translators. The localization team also improved Tor browser localization, and it launched in different languages like Burmese. And Emma Pio also organized some scripts to test the translation, so that if a translator break a link from the translation, that will be the script will check if the translation is ready or if there is something broke. And we have the website translated in different languages. We have Hungarian, in Turkish, and other languages. And some metrics from the community team. Doing user support, we answered over 1,400 support requests by email from different countries. And we reach out to our community in Latin America and East Africa. We organized 4 Tor meetups with relay operators and digital security trainers in 2 different languages, in English and Spanish. And we have mentored 3 outreach interns. If you don't know what is outreach, I suggest you to visit this page and learn more about this cool, very awesome project. And what's coming next? We are going to deprecate some unused mailing lists. So we are discussing that right now, and we are going to migrate some discussions to the Tor forum. We are going to have a Tor relay operator census. So we want to know who are the relay operators and what are the challenges that they are facing and how we can support as a project them. We want to improve our user support tools for Tor users in sensor countries. So we want to improve Tor support in China, in Iran, and other countries. We are going to have more Tor meetups with relay operators and also with digital security trainers. And we are launching next month, but we will end in March, a Tor relay gamification project, where we are going to see what kind of motivations people want to have, what kind of values we want to support or we want to boost. And we hope that after the pandemic, we hope that next year we can do some face-to-face events in the Global South. So we have some travels ready, but we are waiting for the situation and see if we can do this training with our community in the Global South. And I think that's all I have. And remember to run a Tor bridge or run a Snowflake proxy. It's very easy, and you can just click, you can be part of the Tor network. Thank you, and back to you, Gaba.
Thank you, Gus. That is amazing, everything that the community team and volunteers are doing. Next, we are going to have Georg. Georg is our network health lead. Hi, Georg.
Hi. Yeah, thanks, everyone. So I want to give some update on what's going on this year and what's supposed to be happen next year in the network health area. I focused a bit on the topics we talked about last year because they are still important and still major things we have to work with. One is giving an update on the progress on our bed relay work, and the other one is the performance and health improvements we want to do in the network. So as I said last year during the State of the Onion, bed relay work remains hard with our limited resources. That's still the case. So to recap, we removed several large groups of exit relays at the beginning of the year. And we actually took this as kind of a wake-up call for finally investing some time and energy into new scanners and enhanced monitoring. And as a result, I would claim that we got a safer Tor network, in particular compared to the previous years. But on the other hand, you could say, well, I mean, it could be the flip of the coin you have to look at, in the sense that that might be just the next level of the arms race we entered. So we sat down during the year and started to write a proposal for a better long-term solution as well. I'll talk a bit about this proposal later, but that's the thing. We have long-term plans here too, not just reacting to what we see on the network. Network health is not just about bad relays, right? I mean, it's a central part in our ongoing work on performance and scalability and network safety work we do every day. So one of the things we did, and is worth mentioning here, is that we finally moved to a new bandwidth scanner called SBWS for the majority of our bandwidth authorities, which is exciting because A, it finally gives us a maintained piece of software again for an important piece of our infrastructure, and B, we can build on top of this things that are helping with the overall overload and performance issues we are seeing. Then we helped relay operators and bridge operators by providing metrics for overload on their systems, different kinds of metrics. That's pretty easy to query nowadays, and we pledge to help them troubleshooting things if they can't do this. Additionally, we set up monitoring on our own infrastructure and reach out proactively as well. So if there are overload issues we see, we often reach out to relay operators and trying to point them to it and figure those out together with them to have our users providing a better, basically, performance and usability. And finally, to highlight a bit the network safety angle, we resumed looking at relays with unsupported Tor versions and try to get those upgraded. We reached out to several hundred of relay operators, and if that's not working, we removed them in a couple of weeks this round, so that we have this network safety angle here addressed as well. And this is not just like a one-time thing we pick up because it's cool, but we put up a process so we keep this on our plate and do this every time in the future when a new Tor version is getting unsupported. So that were the highlights for this year. What's coming up next year? As I said, we want to make further progress on the bad relay situation. We wrote a proposal where we ultimately want to try to get the trust in our relay community used, in the sense that we want to make sure that relays entering the network and which we don't trust get less traffic compared to what is currently the case. And the idea here is that by putting a trust factor into this into the bandwidth distribution, we want to do the incentivation in the sense that relay operators that want to do something malicious don't even try to join our network, because they know that they don't get really the bandwidth they want to have to be able to snoop on many users. So that's the longer term plan. I don't think this will happen next year. We start to work on this next year, but it will take quite some time because we need to set up infrastructure and support for this general plan. And the other part, we want to improve the overload situation and remove performance bottlenecks. For instance, by using the SBWS bandwidth scanner and giving load back to underutilized relays from overloaded relays until the overload is gone, and this kind of stuff. This is going to happen next year as well. That's all from my side, actually. So thanks for listening, and I'm handing the mic back to Gabba. Thanks.
Thank you so much. So our next speaker is Hiro. Hiro is a metrics developer. She will be talking about the work that they are doing. Hi.
Oi.
Oh, can we hear you? Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me share
everything
my
is
screen. Okay, everyone. Welcome to the State of the Union for Photonmetrics. My name is Sylvia, also known as Zero, and this is the exciting world of Tor network data. So, if you're wondering what metrics is the team that collects and makes Tor network data available to our community. We will cover what happened in 2021 and what is coming up next in 2022. So for 2021, we have a new throughput metric that we've been adding. We have onion perf instances, which are special onion perf instances. We exposed relay health metrics to operators through a website. We published onion service v3 statistics. And what's coming for 2022, we'll be launching the new metrics website. We'll start measuring RT performances with onion perf, and we will try to provide better tools for data analysis to our community. So the new throughput metric. We have a new throughput metric in onion perf. It uses the last 1 megabyte of the transfer in the 5 megabyte downloads to get better accuracy. You might be notice this if you use onion perf visualization, Tornet tools plots, and if you're just browsing the data on metrics.torproject.org. So we added onion perf instances. These special onion perf instance measure when guards node are in use. Guards use is important to get a more accurate assessment of the effects of circuit build timeouts and cutoff behavior. And usually onion perf instance do not take guard use in count. So this is a new thing that we added. Starting from last summer, we started providing data for operators to monitor the health of their relays with an overload starting indicator on relay search. If you notice, this appears as an amber dot next to your relay nickname, and you can follow the link to a support article that will help you solve this situation. So we also started publishing onion service v3 statistics. You might notice this on the onion service tab on metrics.torproject.org, and you will be seeing that unique onion addresses for v3 are growing in the network as more operators move to v3 from v2. What's coming up next, and how does 2022 look like? So we have the metrics website redesign coming up. Tor and Simply Secure have been working together to envision the metrics site. We have done user interviews and the survey to understand how the data on the website is used and how it's explored, and now we can make it available in a format that is more useful to our users. As RT, the Rust implementation of Tor becomes more stable, we'll be starting measuring its performances with onion perf. So you will be start seeing data from onion perf RT instances. We also want to provide better tools to our community. The goal is to make data available in a format that can be easily analyzed and shared and reasoned upon. And what we want to do is we want to reduce the time to insight for people that are interested in Tor network data. So if you have an answer and you need Tor network data, you must be able to find that answer more quickly. For this, we were thinking to expose public endpoints with aggregated Tor network data. This will be probably we'll be using a Prometheus form so that you can import them easily and maybe visualize them with Grafana and so on. And with this, thank you, and back to Gaba.
Thank you so much, Hiro. Our next speaker is Jim He's a shadow simulation developer. His talk is recorded. He's doing an intro to shadow and tech advancements we have made.
Hi, my name is Jim Newsom, and I'm going to be talking about the Shadow Simulator. This is joint work between the Tor Project, Naval Research Laboratory, and Georgetown University, and is sponsored by the National Science Foundation. Shadow is a tool aimed primarily at researchers and developers. It emulates a network for applications such as Tor. It emulates the operating system to the individual applications, and then it routes traffic through a simulation of a real network. So this is useful for things like analyzing proposed changes to the program, so like trade-offs and things like congestion control and so forth. Also useful for analyzing attacks against the network and so on. The big news this year is that we've released Shadow 2.0. This is a new architecture for Shadow. Instead of loading programs into Shadow as plugins, it actually runs them each on the host operating system as normal processes. So for end users, the biggest advantage to this is that you no longer need to patch and recompile programs specially to run under Shadow. Shadow can now run them unmodified. Similarly, before, when everything was one big process, you didn't really have any visibility into the simulation in the individual processes. But now that they're just normal processes on the host operating system, you can use standard tools. So for example, you can attach GDB to a process in the simulation to actually debug what's going on. Similarly, you can use things like strace or perf to do some analysis. The other big change you might notice is that before Shadow used XML-based configurations. These were a little bit tricky to modify or read by for a human. We've switched to YAML and GML, which is YAML-like. The other thing we've been working on recently is really applying Shadow more in Tor. So now we have the ability to push a button in a GitLab CI and run simulations. This is with a lot of help from the Tor sysadmins, particularly Anercat and LavaMind, and has been in conjunction with a project in Tor to improve its congestion control, especially with Mike Perry and Hero, where we're really piloting this to help guide that work. So with this, we actually can go into the GitLab UI, choose a bunch of parameters for a simulation we want to run. So, for example, we may want to point at a custom version of Tor. We can hit Run Pipeline, and then GitLab will build and run like an experiment hermetically. So it'll build all of the dependencies at the specified versions, get network data for the time period that you want to emulate, and then run multiple trials of a simulation, potentially in parallel if you have enough hardware. And then finally, it'll generate and archive graphs and logs of the results. And so we have it where it will actually compare against both a previous baseline run of the simulation and the real network over the time period you specified. So this is useful for telling what the effects of a proposed change are compared to some baseline. Next year, we expect to continue improving Shadow, particularly to expand syscall support, which will allow us to run more programs under Shadow. In particular, we're working on supporting ARTI, which is the new Rust-based implementation of Tor. And we want to support Golang programs, especially pluggable transports. Later next year, we're hoping to add a feature to allow sharding a simulation across multiple physical machines instead of just needing one giant machine to run a simulation. And to rewrite the TCP model inside Shadow to both clean it up from a software engineering point of view and improve its accuracy. And finally, we plan to continue deploying its usage more inside the Tor project itself, using it to evaluate new versions and do some continuous integration testing and performance modeling. Thank you.
Great, that was great, that was awesome. So our next speakers are Mike Perry and Alex. Mike Perry is the network product manager at Tor, and Alex is now our network team lead. We have them. Mike.
Yes, hello.
Our raccoon. We can hear you.
All right, excellent.
Go for it.
Thank you, Gaba. Okay, yeah, so I'll be talking about how we're tracking our user feedback and using that to drive our roadmap for funding proposals and improvements to the Tor network. To zoom in on one of the graphics that Duncan had in his slides on our user survey, this is the results from the Tor browser user survey with the requested improvements from our users. As you can see here, the results are that speed is the #1 thing that most people want. I mean, and then followed by websites blocking Tor, and then followed by privacy and security improvements. And, we had, suspected these things for a while, we're all users of Tor here, but it's nice to have a very large 50,000 user survey to, confirm that and have a large sample size. So thanks, Duncan and Na, for doing those surveys. So the first area of improvements that people requested is speed. And last year at the State of the Onion, we announced that we were starting a performance project for the Tor network and focusing on improving throughput, latency, load balancing, and doing some parameter tuning. And you might have noticed that our metrics, the past year haven't really improved, and that's because we're doing most of this work in the shadow simulator that Jim just talked about. In particular, we have an implementation of 3 congestion control algorithms from Tor Proposal 324 that we have been testing and tuning in shadow. And right now, our preliminary results are showing us, for those those familiar with congestion control, not too unsurprisingly, TCP Vegas is performing the best. Of course, Vegas is a TCP congestion control algorithm that's based on round trip time measurements. It allows us to bound latency and queue size and still get the throughput benefits of congestion control such that we can use our spare network capacity. Additionally, people who are familiar with congestion control might know that Vegas has some fairness issues, and we have a system that we're also tuning to help compensate for that has been implemented previously, Circuit EWMA. This should be available for our users in 0.47 stable. We are going to need exit relay operators to upgrade their relays to this release in order to turn it on. And it'll be turned on by consensus parameters. So we'll be doing a relay exit upgrade drive in Q1 2022 to get those relay operators onto that release. And then we will turn it on for everybody. And then you'll start seeing those performance improvements. Next up on that list from that user survey was blocking. A lot of people who've been following Tor for a while are familiar with the fact that we have many websites that either block Tor or serve CAPTCHAs or rate limit too many Tor requests. And we've done outreach for this. We had some success with Cloudflare getting them to stop serving CAPTCHAs for every Tor user. But a lot of the long tail of the internet is adopting ban lists, rate limiting, reputation systems since then. So while we're still working on this outreach to try and understand the needs of websites and internet sites with respect to Tor, we're also looking for technical solutions and stuff that we can do on our side to improve the situation. To that point, last year we also talked about tokens, investigating cryptographic tokens in the State of the Onion. This caused a little bit of confusion that we should clarify. We're not talking about minting a cryptocurrency here. We're talking about using these anonymous credentials or blind sign tokens to help reduce the amount of abuse that websites see from Tor and reduce blocking. And also they're useful for denial of service resistance in the same way and bridge distribution as well. So the idea here, to give an example use case relevant to the blocking problem, is that, Google and YouTube, for example, are prime examples of places that either serve CAPTCHAs for Tor users or block them entirely depending on the service and the exit relay used. So exit CAPTCHA tokens is an idea that we're exploring, where we can create a separate set of exits where the user must present one of these tokens that proves that they've solved the CAPTCHA in order to use those. And those exits should see less scraping coming out of them, less bots, less spam, and should be treated better by these services. And this is not going to be a CAPTCHA spam thing like we saw in the Cloudflare days. The idea is that you get several of these tokens with for a single CAPTCHA. Similar to this, the people who've been following the IETF and Cloudflare privacy pass proposal and the private access tokens work, these are similar works that we're also following, and we may adopt some of those for related use cases where simply reducing the amount of scraping is not enough. A lot of websites like newspapers will allow you to get 5 articles per month. And private access tokens is designed to handle that use case. So we are tracking those drafts as well to hope in the hope that they can also be useful and private enough for Tor users as well. In that vein, for the cryptographers in the audience, a quick note: a lot of the anonymous credential literature goes heavy into unforgeability resistance, but omits or sweeps under the rug the linkability analysis. For these types of use cases here, we're not selling diamonds. We don't need the strong unforgeability, but we do need strong unlinkability. In fact, because this is a system that'll be like a year or so in the future at least, we should design it with a quantum adversary in mind. And it turns out that with respect to unlinkability, some of these, even classical tokens, are actually still information theoretic unlinkable, but many of the other anonymous metals in the literature are not. Particularly, will use cryptographic commitments instead of information theoretic blinding or hash or random oracle. So just for the cryptographers out there, these are the kind of properties we need. Finally, the last area that I'll talk about briefly is protocol security, privacy, and security for the Tor network. The main thing that we've been working on here for the past year is guard discovery defenses. Now, this is an attack where the adversary runs malicious middle nodes and then can cause a client or onion service to make a lot of connections. And then using their malicious middle nodes, they can notice when they're next to the guard node and thereby learn the guard. The Vanguard's control port add-on protects against this for onion services, and we originally believed this attack was only practical against onion services, but Ganesh Akar demonstrated in an upcoming PETS paper that it is actually possible to do this against clients as well. And so we implemented Vanguard's Lite in 0.47. It is available in 0.47 alpha. And what this does is only provides a second layer of guard nodes called the layer 2 guards that are tuned for short-term usage, like client use cases and like onion share are typically used. And this can provide some mitigation against those attacks. Because it's tuned for clients and short-lived services, long-lived services should still use the Vanguard's add-on. Now, additionally, in upcoming, starting towards the end of this year, we're also tracking many other areas of privacy and security improvements for Tor to deal with potential attacks and concerns that we have about the protocol and general things we want to improve about the security of the protocol. So we've submitted a funding proposal that covers many of these areas. As well, things like improvements to the Vanguard's idea. There are some additional things we can do there, DOS offenses, auditing the protocol for side channels, cipher improvements, really capacity verifications, these sorts of padding for traffic analysis, these sorts of things. Additionally, we're tracking the post-quantum world as well, of course. As I mentioned, we want to keep an eye on that. We will be looking for a funding proposal for that. That's on our radar as well. So these are the sort of things that we're considering under that lens of the major user requests and user concerns about the Tor network. So I'm done here. I guess we'll go back to GABA to introduce Alex, who will be handling the rest of the network team. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, as you said, the next speaker is Alex. Alex is the lead of the network team, talking about little Tor. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Gaba, and thank you, Mike. So as Gaba mentioned, I'm the team lead of Tor's network team. You've already met both Jim and Mike from the team giving a summary of their specific projects. After me, Nick Matthewson will talk a bit about what improvements that have been happening on the RD project over the last year. So I will sort of do a little bit of a catch-all on what else we've been up to. So if we take a look at 2021, a lot of the team's effort has been supporting the network health team. You heard from Georg what the team had been up to. David Golay from our team has been working closely with Georg on these efforts. We've been closely collaborating with the Anticensorship team on bridge and pluggable transport stability and usability issues that exist in Tor. Of course, all of these efforts gets integrated into the main product by the browser team. We've also worked closely with our friends on integrating Tor into their respective application. It's worth highlighting that the Guardian project, and especially Benjamin, who works on their iOS efforts, have made great improvements to the network extension work that we talked about last year. Additionally, we also need to mention that we have been significantly ramping down on new client features in the C implementation of Tor. That is, of course, has to do with that we're working on RD, where we have been ramping up both on the engineering efforts, but we've also recently hired Ita, who has joined the RG team together with Nick, and another person is starting here in the beginning of the next year. As Matthew mentioned earlier, one of the things we want to do in 2022 is to start experimenting with UDP support in the Tor network. There are many different use cases, such as crypto wallets, there's streaming, there's voice over IP, there's a large WebRTC-based application ecosystem that's being created right now that we currently cannot support with the Tor system as it is, and we really want to be able to do that. An interesting thing with how we are to do it is that we want to only require upgrades for client and exit nodes for the deployment. Like, we don't need to do a full upgrade of the network because they take much longer to do. We will be using the congestion control system efforts that Mike have been leading to handle packet drops at the edge, of course, because UDP packets can be dropped, and the protocol should be able to handle that. I saw earlier there were some people in the YouTube chat who was asking in how to track these kind of efforts. You can look at our GitLab, the Tor GitLab, gitlab.torproject.org. We have a repository there called TorSpec, and it's ticket 73 that you could look at there. Over the years, there's been many conversations about UDP support in the Tor network, and there's been discussions about using Quick, which is also over UDP, and whether we should change the entire link layer between both clients and between the individual relays to switch to UDP. But we are actually going to be having that we channel the UDP packets over the TCP streams that already exist. And this is why we can do this very nice network upgrade where we only need to upgrade the clients and the exit nodes. Another project we want to look into in 2022 is the Conflux system. It has to do with that we want to deal with some of the network performance bottlenecks that exist in the Tor network right now using a technique called traffic splitting. Some of this work is being written right now by David Golay and Mike Perry in the proposal 329 that you can go look at if you're interested in this. And we hope to be prototyping this with Shadow and with the Shadow team and Jim in the beginning of 2022. If we take a bit of a look at what Conflux is, if we take a look at, here we have Alice connecting to Bob over 3 different relays. What happens here is that if one of the TCP connections between any of the relays goes down, then Alice will have no way of reaching Bob and the connections is terminated. With Conflux, Alice will have the ability to make multiple connections through the network and finally end up at the destination exit node and make the final TCP connection to Bob. There are some people we need to thank here for all the efforts that have been put into the Conflux work. There's Priya Hurdy, who has been helping us with some of the multipath TCP. There's Simone Furline, who's been advising especially Mike on the Blessed paper and some information about the Linux kernel implementation of it. We have Toge Højland Jørgensen, who has also been helping on some of these efforts. We have Michelle Al-Sabah, Kevin Bauer, Tariq Alahi, and Ian Goldberg, who wrote the original Conflux paper. Thank you, everybody, and I will pass the mic back to Gaba, and then next up is Nick Matthewson. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alex. Yes, our next The next speaker is Nick. He's the Chief of Software Planning and Architecture at Tor. We're talking about our new project, Arty.
Hi, everybody. I've got about 5 minutes to talk about a couple years of work, so I won't be able to cover all the details, but pretty soon there's going to be a URL at the bottom of the slides that you can follow to look at our repository and learn some more. I'm going to be talking about Arty, our project to rewrite a Tor client in Rust. I'm going to talk about why we're doing it, how it started out, where we are today, and where we're going to be going in the future. So, why rewrite Tor? Well, the C Tor implementation is showing its age pretty strongly. We started coding it back in 2002, and we've learned a lot since 2002 about how to write good secure software, about how to write anonymity networks, and we've seen lots of changes come in the overall architecture that things want to provide. Also, as most of you programmers will know, C is a scary language to work in. There's no memory safety, everything is very low level, and while it is technically possible to write secure C, it requires painstaking, careful work that means we have to go very slowly in order to actually try to deliver secure software. And even when we go as slowly as we can, as we need to, and try our best, we still get security bugs. When we looked over all of the issues that we've been tracking our security issues in a system called Trove since 2016. We found that roughly something over half of them seem to be issues that you would only have in a lower level programming language like C that doesn't have memory safety, that has null pointers and stuff like that. Also, the architecture of our current C code is not that easy to maintain. It's grown over the years without that much of a plan, adding one feature at a time, but sometimes adding features in a hurry to respond to current needs, especially back in the days when we were a lot smaller than we are now. That means that all of the parts are connected to everything else. That makes our C hard to test and hard to change and hard to adapt to new circumstances, like how modern processors are all multi-core. Back when we started, we didn't have multi-core processors that we owned while we were coding. Now everything is multi-core. And our old architecture slows us down too. This part is not 100% C's fault. This is to a large extent us being in a hurry over the years. So we figured maybe Rust was the answer. If you're not familiar, Rust is a modern programming language that is high level. It has memory safety. It doesn't have null pointers, or rather, you can't accidentally use null pointers. Its APIs are designed to be harder to misuse. And very importantly for us, it has a really friendly community that is very supportive of new efforts. We've gotten so many patches and so many helpful suggestions from existing Rust programmers since we started. It's a tremendous group to work with. And, well, of course, there's the cute crab mascot, Ferris, there. Say hi to Ferris, everybody. So I kind of started this not intending to do a complete Tor replacement. I just thought I'd like to learn Rust back in 2019, and I started hacking on Arty as a side project to teach myself Rust, because when I don't know what to do, I write a Tor implementation. But it was a lot of fun. So in 2020, I took a sabbatical for a month, and in my spare time, kept on hacking on Arty. It got to the point where by the time I was done with my sabbatical, I could do a public demo, and it wasn't even nearly feature complete then. All it could really do is connect to the network, send a single file to itself, and disconnect. Actually, I think you needed to interrupt it with Control-C. I'm not sure it disconnected on its own. But we applied for funding from the Zcash Open Major Grants Committee group. I'm going to name them slightly wrong, but they were fabulous to work with and excellent to talk to. And we've got funding for a year to get Arty ramped up to be a Tor client that works. And finally, as of this November, Arty is now a working standalone Tor client. You can connect it to your Tor browser, if you follow the instructions in the repository, and you can try it out. Wouldn't recommend it for everybody. It's Probably not at the stage yet where you want to use it if you're not comfortable building from source, but it is fun and usable. We have gotten to the point where it doesn't have any missing privacy features. That is to say, there's nothing where we're saying, don't use this because this feature is missing. All of the reasons not to use it are because of, because of its immaturity. Unlike the CTOR, it has actual multi-threading. It'll use as many cores as are thrown at it. Unlike CTOR, it can actually have multiple processes running using the same cache and state files on disk, so you don't need to worry about whether it's already running or not. It works as a library. If you're writing a program in Rust, you can just connect over the network using RD and get nice async read and async write connections to use with your existing application. There's an example with using it with the Rust hyper library in order to download a URL. Of course, we have a long way to go. I won't go over all the details, but still in the future, right now we're working on stabilizing the API so that we don't have to say we're going to break the whole world every 5 minutes. For our 1.0 release, we're going to be focusing on performance and usability and stability. After that comes the anti-censorship features, bridges, and pluggable transports. After that, which will make a lot of people happy, onion services. That part isn't funded yet. We're going to have to ask for more grants or grant renewal to fund that, or get a whole bunch of donations. That would be helpful. And 2.0 will be when we're finally ready to replace the C client. Beyond 2.0 is relay support, so we can run the whole network in Rust, but that's pretty far off in the future. So we need your help. Try running it. Try reporting bugs. Try writing little applications that use it. Request features you want. Try hacking on it. Submit patches. Rust is a really fun language to learn. Okay, that's all I've got for you today, but I hope to see you on IRC, in the forums, and on GitLab. Back to you, Gaba.
Thank you so much, Nick. That was a great talk about RT. So before going to our next speaker, I want just to remind everybody that Tor is a non-profit organization. And if you think that this work is important, then a donation will make a difference to us. Your donation will be matched by friends of Tor. You just go to donate.torproject.org, and there's like a lot of possibilities there for donations. Our next speaker is Anarkat. He's the sysadmin lead at Tor. Anarkat, are you there? Yes, you are.
So this is a tour of the magic sysadmin land. The sysadmin team at Tor manages the servers that make everything you've seen so far possible in a way, because we help people develop the Tor project. We don't run the network, but we manage a bunch of servers. We respond to problems with those servers, installs, all that kind of stuff is what we do. We do a lot of documentation and deal with lots of tickets, as you'll see later. Technically, that means about 12 physical servers, including lots of virtual machines that are split in 4 points of presence around the world. We have 30 web servers out of that, including 5 that are part of a homegrown content distribution network. We have name servers, mail servers. All of this collected together is 5 terabytes of core memory, a few gigabits of bandwidth, and tens of terabytes of data that somehow we've grown over the years. On a good year, we resolve about 500 tickets that are submitted to us. That's more than 2 a business day. And all of this is to run about 72 services, including 22 that are run by the sysadmin team and 50 more that are managed by service admins. We have 3 staff, 3 volunteers, and 35 service admins that are not part of the team, but that have access to the servers and run all those nice services that you've seen so far. Who are we? There's me, that's the lead. Kez and Lavamine are working on the sysadmin web. And all of 3, that's the staff, and 3 more volunteers, Weasel, Linus, and QBI. And what have we done in the last year? So as you've seen, we've had to scale GitLab CI up quite a bit to run the shadow simulations. We've worked on hosting GitLab pages, which is basically web hosting without too much trouble. And we also use it to preview deployments for the static websites right now. We almost migrated the blog to a static site. We were almost ready to push the button this morning, but because of this talk, I figured we could wait a little while so that things wouldn't be broken while I would talk about it. We have a new email delivery server to help with people that have trouble delivering mail as at torproject.org emails, because we didn't have that before. And that's part of a long-term plan about that, which I'll talk about later. We have a status page for outages and experiments that are run on the network that you can look at right now. And we didn't completely destroy anything, at least not deliberately. We actually destroyed Track completely in the last year. It was retired in the favor of GitLab recently, but the virtual machine was actually destroyed recently on purpose. So what's coming next for the team? We have a lot of work to do on our aging email infrastructure. And we have a lot of old services running still. We still have an SVN server. We still have Gitolite and Gitweb running in parallel to Gitolite and GitLab. Gitolite and Gitweb running in parallel to GitLab. So we want to remove that duplication eventually, possibly. And yeah, basically we keep removing old stuff, hopefully to clean up everything and make everything easier to maintain. Part of that is also the code base we've been accumulating over the years. And there's Debian upgrades coming up in July, which might imply upgrading or changing monitoring systems and upgrading a major upgrade to the mailing list servers. And finally, we are looking at setting up a new cluster in another point of presence to have better high-performance services for our users, which are the developers and you. Part of the stuff we're not going to do is just get rid of all the legacy we have accumulated in the last 15 years, because that's a lot of work, but we're slowly banding at it. And we're not going to move everything to the cloud just yet. And, well, global warming is not on the agenda right now, but we encourage everyone to start working on that as soon as possible. And we'll try to do our best to not destroy the planet while we develop our software. So that's it. That's all I had. Back to you, Gaba.
Thank you so much. Perfect. Our next speaker is Al, the fundraising director at Tor. Al, you're there?
Hi.
Yes. Hi.
Hi, everyone. As Gaba said, my name is Al. I'm the fundraising director at the Tor Project. And today I'm here to talk to you about why privacy is a human right and our year-end fundraising campaign. If you are a fan of Tor, you may know that every year we hold a year-end fundraising campaign because as a 501c3 nonprofit, we rely on donations to make everything that everyone talked about today. The year-end fundraising campaign comes from the work of a cross-organizational committee. We look at the conversation around Tor for the year, and we think about why people care about Tor and why we care about Tor, and we create this campaign as a group. This year, you've probably seen our materials already. The theme is privacy is a human right. If you have used Tor browser or visited our website or been to our donation page in the last couple of weeks, you've seen this awesome artwork created by Duncan, who you heard from earlier. And we decided on this theme this year because the conversation around privacy and its meaning has really coalesced around this idea that it's a human right. And before I started planning out this talk today, I wanted to think about why privacy matters so much to me. I wanted to reflect on the human element of human right. And I think it goes back to being a kid. I grew up in the US South, which is, as you may know, a conservative, highly religious place. And I was a queer kid. And being a queer kid in the South was hard. And I turned to the internet to find people like me and to have conversations with other queer people and to feel like I wasn't alone. and to understand that there was a world outside of the tiny conservative place that I lived. And the internet really allowed me to thrive. It allowed me to understand that one day I could live a different life. But none of that would have been possible without privacy. Had my conversations been on display to my parents or my peers or my school or my larger community, I really could have faced some very negative repercussions. Privacy allowed me to have those conversations, and it allowed me to do research about who I was, and it really made all of this possible. And that's what we're doing at Tor. That's why I care so much about what we're doing at Tor. We are ensuring that everyone can exercise that human right to privacy. And that's a core reason why we chose this theme this year. It's also a core piece of our mission, why we exist as an organization. Another reason we picked privacy as a human right as our theme is because we're seeing governments and corporations aggressively violate our privacy. This year, there's so many news stories, you couldn't possibly stick them all in one slide, but we saw Apple roll out its plan to build in scanning capabilities into iPhones and other products. We saw the massive story about the NSO group using its spyware to target activists and journalists and political leaders. We've seen all sorts of stories about location data being harvested and sold for incredibly low prices. We've seen the way that the pandemic and learning at home and going to school at home has changed privacy. And we've seen that governments and corporations are continuing to use the data that they harvest to change behavior and manipulate our lives. So for all those reasons, we really wanted to underscore that privacy is a human right, and we all deserve to be able to exercise it. So what is Tor doing about it? Beyond making the tech that we've talked about today, we are also engaging in the community and participating in advocacy, because it's not just about building technology. It's also about participating in group efforts like being part of the Global Encryption Coalition, the Coalition Against Stalkerware, and the Keep It On Coalition. We also hold public conversations like PrivChat on topics at the intersection of privacy and human rights, like our recent discussion of Pegasus. We also help to develop, sign on, and promote calls to action. We've done more than 15 this year, including an open letter to Apple regarding the child sexual abuse material scanning proposal, a letter to the UN Human Rights Council to call on them to investigate what's going on with Pegasus and the NSO group, and many letters with the Keep It On Coalition to demand that governments keep internet access on, particularly during political events like elections. Beyond that, Tor also acts as a model for what it means to be a self-organized and transparent org, and to uphold a better vision of the internet. So these, we talked today about the technical work that we've been doing and what we're going to do next. I've just talked about how we engage in the larger movement to protect and promote privacy. But I want to go back to the human element. What does your donation do when you give to Tor? Who does it help? I pulled together some stories from folks who have submitted the reasons that they use Tor and what Tor does for them to a survey, and consented to have their stories be shared. And I pulled, there's so many powerful stories, but I pulled together a couple that speak to the different ways that Tor impacts people's lives. What will your donation make possible? It makes privacy possible. I use Tor as my everyday browser, especially when I research doctors and other very personal stuff. It feels better because hopefully there won't be data for sale telling the world about my assumed medical condition. Your donation also makes censorship circumvention possible. I'm Chinese. In China, Google and Wikipedia are blocked, and I can't stand it. Sometimes I use Tor to get across the Great Firewall. Tor has provided me with a lot of help. It offers safety. I'm from the US and I'm a domestic violence victim. My husband tracks my online activity in real time, selectively blocks my website access, interferes with my online experience, attempts to steal my account credentials, deletes data from my devices, and in a multitude of ways violates my privacy. I started using Tor to protect my privacy, and if not for Tor, I would not have another option online for online privacy. It also makes dissent possible. Tor browser, Orbot, and Tails helped me so much during the 2019-2020 Hong Kong protests as a pro-democracy activist in Hong Kong. It allowed me to read, write, and organize freely during the protests. Tor has become especially important after CCP imposed its national security law on Hong Kong, criminalizing political dissent. Tor browser, Orbot, and Tails allow me to continue my political activism and read and write without self-censorship on Twitter using my pseudonymous account. And finally, it makes freedom possible. I live in Central Europe. Tor helped me very much. I educated myself without state propaganda. It got me out of the social bubble I was in, and I was able to get insights, ideas, and views from many different social groups. I would never be free without Tor. And I'm not just talking about digital freedom, I'm talking about physical freedom as well. Right now is a really excellent time to make a donation to Tor, not only because it makes these different ideals possible. Your donation is also matched today by Friends of Tor up to $150,000. And we've got new swag, which I think is really cool. Probably my favorite t-shirt so far. Privacy is a human right. And a special thing, if you become a monthly donor between now and the end of the year, you will get this limited edition holographic sticker, which I want to shower myself in because it's so cool. There are many reasons to give to Tor. To get swag is one, but to help the millions of people that Tor helps every day is the thing that keeps me coming to work. And I think it's the reason why many people make their donations. So you can visit donate.torproject.org to make yours today. And I really appreciate you being here at State of the Union. Thanks so much. I'm turning it back to Gaba now.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Al. So it seems it's amazing the work that we have been doing, and so many people working on keeping Tor accessible for everyone. I want to just do a shout out of what the team has been doing, no? Detecting and monitoring censorship, shipping a Snowflake in a stable version of Tor browser, improving the experience of Tor browser users and the need for censorship circumvention, making a more secure protocol with the v3 Onion service, publishing statistics about that, improving how we show data, focusing on user testing in the global south to improve the experience we have when using Tor, holding trainings and focusing on virtual meetings with trainings and relay operators, starting working in a new project like the Tor VPN that will improve the experience people have accessing Tor, launching an official forum that now will help people help each other and for us to be more connected with the users of Tor, keeping the network healthy by improving our tools and continue to work in the bad relay situation, releasing a new version of Shadow to help us improve performance in the network, to help us simulate networks and tune new algorithms for the Tor network. Starting RT, a new project to eventually replace the CTOR implementation. So yeah, Tor is possible thanks to the contributions of everybody in the community and users. Please try our software and help us find issues. You are also part of how we improve Tor. You can send us any issue you may have with Tor via the new forum or filling up a ticket in our GitLab instance. For our next part of this presentation, we have Roger that will be presenting our community. Yeah, and the Tor ecosystem. Hi, Roger.
Awesome. Hi, everybody.
Thank you.
I'm Roger. I'm one of the original Tor people, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the community side of things. For our second piece of the State of the Onion, we're looking at the broader community. So I guess I should start with saying that I'm happy to have State of the Onion spread over so many different speakers now, because just a few years ago, there were a few of us who tried to present it in person at a HackerCon and represent everything that everybody was doing. And it's great to have everybody be able to speak for themselves now. So we work on software, but we also try to model the kind of organization and community that we want to see in the world. So like, think of us as similar to the Debian project as a self-organized community, but think of us like a specialized Debian with an angle towards human rights, empowering people, giving them control over who gets to learn about them so they can change the world based on what's important to them. So when I helped to start Tor back in 2001, 2002, we had the cypherpunks community doing remailers. We had the P2P community where we would yell the word decentralized and try to get people to care. But we didn't have the internet freedom community that we have now. So there's a lot more diversity and strength in our community now than there was then. So yes, the software is our most important contribution. It's what we do best. But the reason why we write the software is because of people. So Gus has put up this great picture of some of the people who were at the dev meeting in Mexico City in 2018. And the last dev meeting we had was in Stockholm in 2019. We canceled the Costa Rica meeting more than a year and a half ago. We really miss our in-person events because they help us to remember that we're all human beings and give us the motivation of remembering that we're people working on software to help people. So I guess from my perspective personally, I get my motivation from talking to users who are using Tor to make changes in their world. So actually going to Manila and Hong Kong and Taipei and Istanbul and Tunisia and Bolivia and learning about their situations and learning about their culture and their priorities, that's what keeps me going here and what makes me feel like I'm really having an impact. So in that sense, think of the Tor community as layers of an onion where we've got the core developers in the middle. These are the people you just heard from in part one. And then we've got thousands of relay and bridge operators and Snowflake operators around those. And then we've got hundreds of researchers, professors at universities, and grad students who are working on understanding Tor's security and making it stronger and trying to find attacks and understanding how to make a better Tor. And then around that, we've got another layer, which is the thousands of advocates, people like you who are listening to this right now, teaching their friends and their neighbors and their communities about the importance of privacy. And then around that, we have millions of users around the world who use Tor, and by using it, they help provide cover and protection and security for the people, for the users who really need safety. So having that large group of users around the world is critical for why Tor can be safe. And then around that, we've got dozens of organizations under our broader umbrella in our ecosystem that use what we've made and turn it into something more. And that last set, those organizations, are what we're going to be highlighting in the second half of the State of the Onion. And we're going to start with Nathan from the Guardian Project. They've been working on a huge variety of applications to give people back control on their Android and iOS devices. And one of the things that I love most about Nathan and Guardian is that they focus on what users need, building things that real activists use. Off you go, right. Nathan.
I thought we were meeting in the Onionverse today. Did you not know that?
I look forward to finding out what that means.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to boot up into my Onionverse headset here, and I think we're ready to go if we're booting up. So,
hey everybody. Nice to see you. Nathan from Guardian Project, coming to you live right here in the Onionverse. So quick, right? Like a got there. I think I even have legs. Legs like a bat, legs, and cool sneakers. Yeah, so cool, right? So much better than those other verses. But in truth, reality is what we mostly deal with here at Tor and Guardian Project and all of our great community partners. Though we do try to have fun and keep on top of breaking news with the latest technology. Now, at Guardian Project, we have been focused on mobile devices, smartphones, the most personal, intimate devices that you keep on your body and in your house and next to your bed and all the other places we won't talk about, and how we can improve privacy and security of those, because we all understand the role and relationships of smartphones in our lives, and we need to do everything we can to allow us to retain what amount of control we can with traffic leaving and entering the device. So we've been working for a decade on that, and Orbot is probably the best known project that we have, and that continues to be a great VPN, essentially for routing any app on your device through Tor. Now, some of the most exciting developments, thanks to Bim on our team, who's been leading the work here, is the support for Onion Services version 3, meaning you can host an Onion service, you can connect to an Onion service, you can do client authentication, you can do all the Onion things within Orbot. So any app on your device that needs to host or connect to an Onion service, we make that easy with Orbot. So I'm really excited. Super job. Now, we've also made a big transition with the underlying Tor engine in Orbot. And thanks to Hans on our team, Hans Christoph Steiner, F-Droid, and Debian, and Guardian Project, and so many great things. Thanks. We now have an in-process kind of modern version of Tor built in, and it's all available in the Tor Android library, right? So, Google was saying, no, you can't run Tor as a binary service on your phone. No, that's not safe. No. But so now we run it the way they expect, as an inline process, and it works great. We've also been updating all of our plug-in transport technology to continue to have great support for Snowflake and OBS4 and getting new bridges and everything. So cool. Thanks to Benjamin, TLA and our team, for all of that great work, and the Snowflake team at Tor. They're awesome. And the most recent thing is that you now can, if you go into the settings menu on Orbot, you can make your device an actual Snowflake proxy. So this means that anyone can connect to you to get their internet unlocked. Whoa. Crazy, right? I can't believe it. So check that out, more soon on that, and we have an Android TV version so you can run Snowflake proxies on your TV when you're not binge watching. The other big area of work has been on iOS. That's right. Onions on apples. Doesn't sound like a great mix, but trust me, it is. And TLA, Benjamin Earhart, has been leading the work with Onion Browser. Such great work to continue to make Onion Browser a great browsing experience for Tor on iOS. And now we've had a big breakthrough. So big, just like a huge breakthrough. I can't believe it. It's like enormous. And we can now run Tor in a network extension along with pluggable transports. That means we can build a Tor VPN on iOS. So that's right, announcing here, Orbot, the VPN on iOS, coming soon. So we're really excited, and it's really not about just Orbot on all of these platforms. It's the developer tools, all of this code, the Tor framework, Tor Android, IPT proxy for pluggable transports, the whole VPN, everything we're doing with Onion services is all open source. It's all available for you to use in your applications. So there's going to be a bunch of new Tor-enabled apps coming out for smartphones this year. Not just Tor Browser, not just Orbot, but many more. So yes, we're so excited. So all of you who haven't been keeping up to date with our work, well, come on over, get Tor built into your apps. And yeah, I'll see you later. Come and join me in the Onionverse. Yeah.
Oh man. All right. Well, that was something. So see you next time, I guess, in the Onionverse, Roger.
Wow. Thank you, Nathan, for giving us a glimpse into our future. And some parts of that future sound amazing, and some parts of that future are going to take a bit of time to get used to.
truly. But Tor will be there to help. Thank you.
Okay, up next we've got Allison from the Library Freedom Project, and they've been working on privacy education and advocacy, enabling libraries and librarians, which at least in the US are one of the bastions of civil liberties left in the world. So Allison, up to you.
Thanks, Roger. Hey, everybody. Super hard act to follow. Wow, Nathan. Just me and my face here. Hang on a second. Let me just share my screen. Cool. I'm so happy to be here at the State of the Onion, sharing the work of my organization, Library Freedom Project, which is an organization I started to help regular people, local communities, people of all different kinds of threat models, all different needs for privacy, to help them support their privacy through the trusted space of the library and through their trusted relationship with their local librarian. So what Library Freedom Project is fundamentally is a community of practice for librarians who care about privacy, intellectual freedom, justice, and other related values, and want to work together collaboratively to bring these kinds of skills and advocacy direct to their communities. So just a little bit of background of LFP, how I got started. Roger mentioned already a little bit of the reason why I started Library Freedom Project, because librarians are really a group of people that fundamentally understand all the things that Al was talking about privacy as a human right, why these are values that we need to defend. But what I found was lacking in the space of libraries was really a deeper understanding of privacy, digital privacy, privacy technologies, and what kind of threats to privacy exist now that we are all on the internet and in the metaverse all the time. So I started LFP back in 2014. I started teaching fellow librarians about privacy tools, and people were super into it. It got to be kind of a big thing. And then in 2015, we joined the Tor Project family so that we could work together with Tor developers and the broader Tor community to bring librarians into the fold. In 2015, we had a pretty big thing happen where we started running Tor relays in libraries, and we got some pushback from the Department of Homeland Security, and ultimately we were successful in preventing them from stopping us from running our relays. But that is something that you might have heard about LFP before. That's kind of how we were introduced into the Tor community more broadly. So in the intervening years, I have been teaching librarians around the world about Tor and other privacy technologies. And in 2017, I realized that we really needed to scale our community, and I needed to build more privacy advocates doing what I was doing, who had a more kind of in-depth knowledge of these things and could be teaching not just people in their local libraries, but other librarians regionally. So in 2017, I started an intensive training program for librarians. It's totally free. Right now, we're running a 2-month version of it where it's very competitive, but it's for librarians from all different kinds of library spaces, from academic libraries to public libraries. We are confined to the US currently just because of what our funding requires of us, but we do have folks from all over the US, from big cities to small rural libraries. And we have basically kind of 2 different areas where we provide support for these librarians. So we have our training program, and then we also have a bunch of resources that explain different privacy and tech concepts in plain language. These can be used for teaching themselves, teaching other librarians, or bringing this information to their local communities in an understandable, easy to use format. And these are just some screenshots from some of our training programs. We bring in experts in the field to explain everything from, how artificial intelligence and algorithms relate to privacy, whose privacy is at risk, understanding privacy in online work environments, student surveillance, basically every privacy and surveillance topic under the sun, we cover it at least a little bit. Just a little bit more about some of the resources we've been focusing on right now. We have been doing a lot of work around health literacy and privacy, helping people cut through a lot of misinformation that's out there, especially in COVID times, helping people understand what their rights are when it comes to what their employers can learn about them and what kind of information they have to disclose. I know I showed you all this at the last State of the Onion, but I'm kind of obsessed with this flyer. Another one of our pieces of propaganda for our library community, helping people understand what Amazon Ring is and why it's bad, and some of what can be done about these kinds of technologies that are popping up in our communities. We're really fundamentally a community-focused organization, and we love to celebrate and highlight our people on the LFP website. We have now about 150 librarians that we work with in our community, and I've just highlighted one. This is Marisol. You can learn more about her and our other librarians on the LFP website, libraryfreedom.org. But what we try to really convey is we're this really friendly and welcoming community. You can bring our librarians into professional training spaces, or bring us out for patron-facing programs. And we have all of our different privacy specialties listed on the website. Some of the other projects that we've been focusing on right now, there are. I don't need to tell this community how many different privacy issues that we're facing in 2021, but we've tried to focus our efforts on kind of the most emergent issues that we're seeing. So health privacy, as I mentioned, is a really big thing, especially around combating misinformation. Something that has been an enormous focus of ours is anti-doxing and anti-harassment privacy for people in academia, people in libraries, people in schools, because anyone working on any kind of racial justice, gender justice, any other fundamental human rights issues are facing a lot of doxing and online harassment that's putting their privacy at risk, putting themselves and their families at risk. We do all kinds of work on 101 level privacy for just any people and any kind of threat model, and Tor is a big part of that. We try to make all that training trauma informed and accessible, and we're working on a lot of localization efforts, translating things into languages other than English. And as well as privacy for people in different organizing contexts. So in the US, especially right now, we're seeing a huge wave of labor organizing, a big strike wave. And of course, this comes with a unique set of threats from employers and other actors. So focusing specifically on the needs of those communities and helping them organize safely. And, this is just a picture of some of the members of our community. We're really fundamentally trying to build a multiracial, multi-generational, totally supportive community that collaborates with each other on all kinds of privacy-related things. This is a picture of we had one in-person meeting that was like right at the tiny 2-week window between vaccinations and Delta resurgence. So we had a vaccinated meeting together. Like Tor Project, we are super missing our in-person meetings, but I'm pleased to share this photo with you a little because you can see some of what we're trying to build. Really, it's a grassroots privacy initiative that understand and protect their privacy. And in terms of what's coming up for us in 2022, we are really moving towards bringing back some of our international work. Like I said, our funding has restricted us to the US, but we know that that is not sufficient for the work that we're trying to do. And we have worked with libraries around the world prior to 2017. So we're totally trying to bring that back. So I just want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak a little about LFP's work and echo the sentiments about donating to Tor Project, because we are a nonprofit community and all of this amazing work is made possible thanks to your donations. So thank you all so much. I appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you, Allison. And this awareness work is especially important for helping people understand that things like Tor exist and what the threats are to privacy. I remember some years ago going to the Toronto Public Library to do a Tor talk training for the folks who run the Toronto Public Library system. And they had an internet room with documentation of how you should use Tor browser and why you might want to use Tor browser from their public internet connection in the library. And the world needs more of that. So if you liked what you heard from Allison, we need more Allisons in the world. So sign up for her next cohort of librarians and become another Allison in the world. Okay, and next up, we've got Nick Merrill from Calyx Institute. I'm hoping that Gus finds Nick soon and brings him up next to me. Awesome. So Calyx has been working on a full phone operating system with privacy in mind, and I'll let Nick talk from here.
All right. Thanks, Roger. Hello, everyone. My name is Nick. I'm the executive director of an organization called the Calyx Institute, and I'm really excited to be able to share with you what we've been up to in the past year and what we're looking forward to next year. As I mentioned, we're a nonprofit organization. We've been around for 11 years, and our mission is to educate people regarding privacy online and to build tools that bring privacy by design to regular non-technical people. In addition, we work to try to bridge the digital divide and at the same time fund our own work by giving away mobile hotspots with unlimited 5G internet to donors in the US. Just a few years ago, Calyx was mainly me and a board of directors, but we've been growing like crazy in the past couple of years. And this is our current amazing team that makes everything happen at the Institute, from memberships to creating secure infrastructure to developing our mobile phone OS that Roger mentioned a minute ago called Calyx OS. Over the past few years, going back as far as maybe 2013, actually, we've been doing a lot of work to support the Tor network, including running Tor relays, specifically exit nodes, and we've been building a whole system to be able to automatically deploy Tor bridges, to be able to help people circumvent censorship in countries where there's not free internet access. We've also done a big campaign this year promoting running Snowflake proxies among our membership and the general public. Also, we've been running a bunch of network services over Tor onion services, hidden service addresses, such as our XMPP service. We're also now growing our network team so that we can do a lot more of this in the upcoming year. You may have heard about our newest project, Calyx OS. We're excited to have seen it get a lot more attention online recently, and here's what we've been working on. Calyx OS is a free software Android-based mobile operating system driven by the idea of privacy by design. This means many things. The first and foremost is we're trying to strip out the parts of Android that spy on users. But it also means building into the operating system an array of privacy tools, including Tor browser and Orbot. It means giving users the ability to control the network traffic coming from their apps by isolating them in work profiles. And it also means that we've built in our own firewall system called Datura that allows you to block network access to apps that you don't really trust, or to limit apps to only running over VPNs so that your IP address is never revealed to the operator of that service. Next year, we're really excited to be working with Tor Project on porting Onion Share to Android, which we're then going to be adding to Calyx OS. But it will also, of course, be available as a standalone app to anyone running Android. If you want to learn more about our work, please visit us at calyxinstitute.org or calyxos.org. As mentioned, we are a nonprofit organization that's supported mostly by donations, and we also accept donations in 6 different cryptocurrencies, as well as old-fashioned money. Thanks so much for your support. Thanks for giving me your time and attention, and we're really looking forward to 2022. Hopefully to meeting in person. Back to you, Roger. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick. And this is another great example of why we need to work on not just browser safety, but entire operating system safety. So this ties back to what Matt was talking about in part 1 on the VPN exploration project, where we need to meet users where they are. And in the smartphone world, it's not just the browser. There are a lot of other things that we need to help them make safe.
Absolutely.
Okay. Next up, we've got Arturo from the Open Observatory for Network Interference, which is a worldwide measurement infrastructure for understanding censorship and blocking and interference. And one of the things that I love most about UNI is the emphasis on public data sets, so everybody in the world can follow along and do their own analysis. Arturo, off to you.
Thanks, Roger. Hi, I'm Arturo, and I'm here to give you some updates on what has been happening in the universe in 2021, as well as what we have planned for the foreseeable future. So to start off, I'll just tell you a little bit about what UNI, or the Open Observatory of Network Interference, is about. Basically, we're a project that started around 2012. And our goal is basically to increase the transparency of how information controls are implemented around the world. And we do this in a decentralized way using free and open source software and publishing open data about it. We have an app, which is called UniProbe, that people can install on their phone or on their computer, and they can use this to collect evidence of internet censorship happening on their network and in their country. All this data is then aggregated by us and analyzed, and we make it available as open data so that anybody can draw upon it and do research on it. And the primary way through which we expose this is through UNI Explorer. Based on this data, we then collaborate with a variety of different organizations all around the world, and publish research on how information controls are implemented around the world. So what's been happening the last year? So for starters, we've been making some very important improvements to the UniProbe software. The most exciting improvement that we've made is that we've shipped automatic testing on both mobile and desktop. This means that now users will be able to automatically contribute measurements on both mobile and desktop platforms, increasing the volume of measurement, as well as ensuring that we have more longitudinal data available. We've also made a variety of very important improvements related to the resilience to blocking of our tool. So in the past year, we have encountered some countries that have started to block the UNI backend services. In order to work around this, we have added backend proxy support, which allows users to configure the UniProbe app to upload measurements using something like Orbot, but also with built-in Siphon circumvention support. We also made some changes to the TLS stack that we use for connecting to our backend services, because we noticed that the specific configuration that we were using had been fingerprinted in certain countries, leading it to being blocked. We also added a new experimental card, which adds support for being able to run some experimental tests that are basically tests that are currently in active development and are not really ready to be shipped as sort of first-class tests, but we still want to put them out there so that people can start collecting data through them. We also shipped a new command line interface for Linux and macOS, which replaces the old Python-based software. We also made available Debian packages for UniProbe, as well as added support for installing UniProbe on Raspberry Pi devices. We also now have available user guides documenting all the various features of the mobile, desktop, and CLI. We also have several new exciting experiments that are available inside of our app. We shipped a new signal messenger experiment that people have been asking for since a while. We also shipped a new Rise Up VPN test, and much thanks to the Leap Collective for developing it. We're also currently working on a new Snowflake experiment, which is available only in the CLI at the moment. And a lot of thanks goes to the Tor anti-censorship team for doing some important work that has helped us aid the integration of it in there. Another big area of work that we've been working on this year is a new UniProbe experiment for website testing. So the current test that people use for checking the accessibility of websites is called web connectivity. But this was developed many years ago when the web was also quite different. So this new test is aimed at being able to measure different protocols. So for example, we now add support for measuring websites that support QUIC, as well as being able to enumerate many more cases through which blocking is implemented. We also published a tutorial for developers interested in contributing UniProbe tests, and you can find it at the link on the screen. This year was a year full of many research reports. We published many of them, which you can find all on our website. I will highlight just a couple of them. One was a research report that we published on the blocking of social media in Myanmar, as well as the internet outage that followed the military coup that happened in the country. And this was published both as a research report as well as a paper that was submitted to FUCAI in collaboration with IOTA and Censored Planet. We also did a survey looking into where blocking of the Signal Messenger app happened. And we found it to be blocked in China, Cuba, Iran, and Uzbekistan, based on the measurements that were gathered through the new Signal Messenger test. Some interesting new experimental features that we're developing that I would like to show you. The first is the UNI Measurement Aggregation Toolkit. This is basically a tool that allows you to generate charts that aggregate measurements coming from all of the UNI dataset. So you can go to this, it's currently experimental, but you're still welcome to try it out at the URL that you see below. And you can go there and you can basically pick a country, pick a set of experiments, and slice and dice the data to produce charts that allow you to reason about what types of categories of sites or which specific sites might be blocked in a specific country. Or also look at the results of the aggregate results of individual experiments. Another thing that that is also in beta, but you're welcome to try out, is a request that we've been having throughout the years, which is the testing of websites is only as good as the targets that you have. And so up until now, people interested in contributing to the testing list would have to do that through GitHub. So we basically built a web interface that people can use in order to contribute to the testing lists. And you can find it at testlist.uni.org. An exciting community event that happened this year was the UNI Partner Training, where basically we brought together 86 different participants coming from 49 different organizations in 25 countries around the world. And this was an opportunity to train them on how to use UNI tools, how the UNI methodologies work, but most importantly, so that they could meet each other and exchange knowledge on what it is to investigate information controls in their respective countries. Looking towards the future, we have a lot of exciting new things coming up. There's for sure the public launch of a stable version of the Measurement Aggregation Toolkit. There's the shipment of this new websites experiment that I talked to you a bit about before. We have plans to release a new browser-based censorship measurement tool, which will not be as extensive as the testing that you can do on phones or on computers, but it will make it easier for people to run tests. We also have plans to have Tor integration inside of UniProbe, which will allow us to run the Snowflake test on mobile and desktop, and potentially also use Tor as a circumvention method. We also plan to launch publicly the testless interface, as well as perform some very important backend infrastructure overhauls, predominantly aimed at scaling our backend infrastructure to meet the growing amount of data that we process, as well as improve the performance of our backend infrastructure. We also have plans to start releasing some multimedia content, which will explain how UNI works and provide more information about the project. So stay tuned for that. That's all I had for you today. Yeah, thanks for listening to me. And back to you, Roger.
Thank you, Arturo. And I encourage everybody to join UNI and help with whatever you're good at, whether that's development or communication or installing UNI Probe. You should definitely install UNI Probe if you're in one of the interesting internet freedom countries where you're going to find evidence of censorship or interference. But you should also install UNI Probe if you're in a country that you consider boring for the internet, because maybe you're boring this year, but next year, who knows? So the world is heading towards censorship in surprising places, and helping to document what things look like today so that we can compare them to what they look like next year is an important step to understanding what's going on. Okay, and following Arturo, we've got Connor from SecureDrop, Freedom of the Press Foundation. They've been working on helping journalists and newspapers interact safely with people who have tips and news. And one of the great things about Freedom of the Press, from my perspective, is they've been getting mainstream news organizations using and relying on Tor. Connor, here you go.
Thanks so much, Roger. Yeah, that's what I'm here to talk about today. So again, my name is Connor. I work at Freedom of the Press Foundation. We are a press freedom focused nonprofit, and we have a whole bunch of different projects. Our flagship engineering project, though, is SecureDrop, and that's what I'm going to focus on today. What SecureDrop does in a nutshell, Roger alluded to the fact that we're running Onion services in production at newsrooms. That's true. For folks who aren't familiar with SecureDrop, what it is, in a nutshell, is an online whistleblowing platform. It's installed on hardware, which is installed on location by news organizations. And in order for SecureDrop to work correctly, it makes liberal use of Tor Onion services for anonymity. That's true both for the public interface that is accessed by sources to communicate with the news organization, and we also have an authenticated Onion service that journalists use, and even a separate one that admins use to manage the instance over time. And of course, all of this is free software. Now, the challenge here and the important note to stress is that we at FPF, we maintain the software, SecureDrop. We design it, we implement it, we patch it, we even consult and recommend how to install it safely and how to keep it healthy over time. But we do not run it ourselves. This is installed on-prem in a rather decentralized setup, so every news organization runs their own SecureDrop instance. That's very important because there are a lot out there in the world. Here's a collage of a whole bunch of different logos of news organizations that are using SecureDrop. This is not comprehensive, but it's a good overview. You're going to see a lot of North American news organizations there, some very large enterprise-sized organizations like the New York Times, Washington Post, The Guardian. But you'll also maybe notice a couple Scandinavian or European outlets that don't even have English in the title. That's by virtue of the hard work that our localization team has done over the years. We recently crossed the mark into 20 different supported languages for SecureDrop, and we're very excited about that. So I'm showing this picture to demonstrate how many people are using SecureDrop and how complicated it makes a migration like transitioning from V2 onions over to V3 from our perspective. Because if we ran all these servers, we could schedule that outage and do it ourselves. But we can't actually do that when it comes to SecureDrop. So what did this process look like over the years? I will spoil a little bit. It was a success, and we did it. So this is not like a war story. I actually want to share some notes for success and point to some things that I think would help other people in a similar position over time. So got a timeline here. Rewind the clock 2 years ago, we released SecureDrop 1.0, and that was the first time we allowed people to configure V3 onion URLs. 2 years ago, not everybody was using them yet. All production SecureDrop instances in particular were still on V2, but we added that capability so that folks who were super proactive or folks that were just getting started on a new instance would be able to make a fresh start on V3. Then in summer of last year, July 2020, we deprecated V2 and displayed a little warning to admins saying, if you're still using this, you probably shouldn't be. Get in touch with us. We can make some recommendations and help. And of course, all of our documentation is public online. also a year ago was the first time that we launched this Onion Names initiative, which is what I'm going to talk about in a little bit more detail today. Onion Names allows us to provide a human-readable alias for a v3 Onion URL. That proved to be actually instrumental in this migration being a success. So earlier this year, in March of 2021, we finally added absolutely all the bells and whistles needed to migrate a SecureDrop instance from the impending end-of-life operating system that we recommend. That's the Ubuntu LTS series. And we basically bundled that transition away from a certain server version to a newer server version by saying, hey, you can't make this transition and take your v2 addresses with you. It's v3 only from here on out. And structuring that timeline with both admins and with the Tor project was a great success. So the end of life happened at the end of April, and everybody made it over the hump. So now every SecureDrop that's out there in the wild is using a v3 address, which is exactly what we wanted. And the great thing is a lot of news organizations have a lot of hands-on experience about what it means to manage these things now. So we maintain a lot of that configuration logic, but still, I think it's a really great example to see, dozens and dozens of news organizations running multiple onions specifically for a whistleblowing tip line. It's not the same as getting them all to add onion location headers for their primary news websites, but it is a piece of the pie, so to speak. Now, over here way on the right, the EFF recently announced that they will be deprecating the HTTPS Everywhere extension. That's important for us because that's kind of how onion names work. And I'll give you a brief overview of the technical details there now. So here's a GIF that's showing a human-readable name at the top for SecureDrop instance. And when a human being types that into a Tor browser URL bar, it transparently goes to the v3 service underneath. That's logic that we're maintaining, but actually shipping via HTTPS Everywhere, which is bundled in Tor browser. We have a GitHub repository. It's open source. Of course, anyone can go and scope this logic out, just like the EFF has a GitHub repository for the EFF Everywhere, for the HTTPS Everywhere primary rule set. Here's a little screen cap of a Python script that we wrote just to munge these rules. We only care about the SecureDrop namespace here. And I'm just showing you this, not because it's particularly interesting, but because it's so simple. It's actually a very short script. So kind of anybody can get started with this. And here's an example of what's actually being served there. This is HTTPS Everywhere, but our implementation of it to provide this onion name functionality for SecureDrop. There's an XML flat file that's generated per news.org. And then those XML files are gzipped up and then distributed to a URL that Tor browser knows to fetch via the HTTPS Everywhere configuration. That's all it is at heart, and it provides this very pleasant UX that folks have really, really enjoyed. So my question to this group here is, who else wants to use these onion names? Given that EFF has announced, hey, we're probably not going to be adding more features here, but it's already shipping and bundled with Tor browser, is that the right space for it? Should it exist in a different extension, the same one? Should it be merged into core Tor browser? To be clear, that is not a decision I'm capable of making, just seeding discussion. And also, what are some other use cases for this UX? There's been great adoption of onion location headers around the world, yes, at news orgs, but also for general websites. We at FPF have an onion location header served on all of our major websites. If you go to securedrop.org in Tor browser, you will be redirected to our v3 onion URL. Do onion names play a role in sort of increasing that adoption? Maybe. So I guess what my question to y'all is, do you have ideas or suggestions here? Is this something that you think you'd be interested in working on? Please reach out. Would love to talk more. The Tor team has been amazingly supportive of this prototype. And if anyone else in the space is interested in giving it a shot, would be happy to have a call with you. And just real quick, I know I'm pushing the time limit here. I did want to mention that overall, if you're not using authenticated v3 onions, they have some really beautiful properties that a lot of our news organization admins have been impressed with as part of this migration. Many of you are familiar with the NAT punching aspects of v3 onions in general, even the unauthenticated versions. That means you can host an onion from your house and not poke any holes in your firewall. That's a really powerful property. But authenticated v3 onions allow you to do the same in a way that only you can connect to that onion service. Very powerful property, and we have been using that since day one for SecureDrop's SSH services so that admins can safely administer their instances remotely. If you want to give those a shot, I really commend the hard work that the Tor team has done on making the authenticated service for v3 very usable by generating a key pair and only sharing the public portion of that with the server. So that's all I have. But back over to you, Roger. Thanks so much for the kind introduction.
Onion services are awesome. You heard it here first. Especially v3 onion services. So in terms of what Connor's up to, you should totally reach out and talk to him about the usability side of things, but also in that cool list of mainstream news organizations that are using SecureDrop. If your organization is not in that list, or if the newspaper that you enjoy reading is not in that list, you should work with them and Connor to get that fixed, to get more and more organizations out there making use of the security and privacy that Tor can offer, that Onion services can offer, that SecureDrop can offer. Okay, and our next talk is a recorded one, so I'll do a brief introduction and let Gus press play. So we're going to be hearing from Richard on Ricochet Refresh, which is it's a really great demonstration of the power of Onion services and why Onion services are important. The goal of Ricochet and Ricochet Refresh is a decentralized chat app where there is no middle. There's no central server that knows who talks to who, that you can break into or force to reveal the communications metadata. So I think Ricochet is a useful tool that I run, but it's also a really important demonstration of why decentralized Onion service to Onion service communication is more powerful than the centralized messaging apps. Gus, let's.
Hi, my name is Richard Pasquisel, and when I'm not working on Tor Browser for the Tor Project, I help develop and maintain Ricochet Refresh with Blueprint for Free Speech. Today I'm going to give you an update on what we've been working on since last year and give you a preview of what's coming down the pipe. So first off, what is Blueprint? Blueprint for Free Speech is a nonprofit focused on promoting freedom of expression, and as part of that, Blueprint funds the maintenance of Ricochet Refresh. At the moment, we're just two devs, myself and Marco Simonelli. We're both in Tor Dev, so feel free to ping us if you want to chat. To begin with, I'll give you a quick overview of what Ricochet Refresh is. Rico is a privacy and anonymity preserving instant messaging application. It is entirely peer-to-peer and built off of Onion services. So there's no central messaging Ricochet authority to subpoena, no logs to go through, and next to no metadata to analyze. Rico is a fork of the Ricochet IM project, which was based off of V2 Onion services. Last year, we updated Rico to use V3 onions, which offer better security and anonymity guarantees than V2. They also have the nice advantage that they will still work for the foreseeable future, as V2 onion services are deprecated. Since last year, we've been pretty busy. We got our build system mostly in order, and our releases are now fully signed. Our promised file transfer feature was delivered early in the year, so now you can send files securely over Tor to your Ricochet contacts. Turns out journalists like to record what their sources say, so we implement a conversation export feature. Ricochet does not keep any permanent logs, so if you happen to close your conversation window, your chats are gone forever. And of course, the usual bits of software maintenance we can afford to squeeze in. We have some more Ricochet work coming down the pipes, mostly being done by Marco. Over the next year, we'll be distributing Rico through various package managers and providing users more options with regards to available package formats. We'll also be adding pluggable transport support to Rico, so users in censored contexts that have trouble accessing the Tor network can still use it. Alright, onto the new stuff. So Ricochet's network architecture is peer-to-peer. More accurately, though, it's onion service to onion service. During development over the past year or so, it occurred to me, hey, with a few tweaks and some work, we could generalize this onion-to-onion authentication mechanism and make it super easy for other developers to make anonymous, metadata-resistant, and privacy-preserving peer-to-peer services like Ricochet. We are taking lessons we've learned from the V2 to V3 Onion service updates and applying them to a new specification and reference implementation called Gosling. The end goal is that a developer can integrate a Gosling implementation which will take care of all the details surrounding Tor bootstrapping, connecting to, and authenticating with peers in an onion-to-onion network. We will be using Ricochet as a testbed. The goal is to have the next major Rico release using Gosling in its backend. We've been drafting and finalizing specifications over the past few months, and we should be posting them on the Tor Dev mailing list soon, so keep an eye out for that. Okay everybody, thanks for listening. Here's some links to the things I talked about. The Gosling GitHub repo isn't quite live yet, but it will be once the specifications are posted to Tor Dev. Thanks again.
Great. I think Ricochet Refresh is an exciting app that I think a lot of us are looking forward to using as it stabilizes and rebuilding the community of people who are using decentralized chat. So up next, we've got Georgia from Simply Secure. So Simply Secure is an organization that provides UX help for orgs throughout the internet freedom community to make sure that the apps that we all work on can reach users around the world. So one of the great things about Simply Secure is the focus on thinking about users and helping developers build things that real people find useful. Georgia, take it away.
Everybody, and thanks for having us at the State of the Onion. We didn't get to participate last year, but it's great to be here. I am the executive director at Simply Secure, as Roger was saying. For those of you who don't know us, we've been around since 2014. We got started as an organization to improve the usability of secure communications tools, and our work has expanded a lot since then. So what you're going to see in this presentation is actually some of our new branding material that we are starting to release, and I'll talk more about that as we dig in. Folks may know me from where I was previously. I took over in 2018, and prior to that I was at New America helping lead the measurement lab project, where I got to collaborate frequently with the folks on the UNI team. So it's great to see you all again. Okay, let's see. So yes, so we are Simply Secure. Our mission is to change who technology serves. We leverage design as a transformative practice to shift power in the tech ecosystem. And we do that by applying a holistic lens, and view design as an intervention opportunity to center people and their needs. Actually, one of the things I've been reflecting on is how central that has been a theme in this entire State of the Onion. And it's so amazing to hear that from the Tor teams and all of the various community projects, just how much the focus on actually serving people and their needs has come through, and hearing that loud and clear is such a great thing to see. We collaborate closely with lots of projects in this space. I'm going to talk a little bit about how. And overall, our vision is a world where everyone has the knowledge, network, and digital tools to enrich their lives. So our strategy is to secure this change through design centered in community-based research and strengthening knowledge sharing among designers and technologists. We do that by providing direct support with projects. Usually that's supported through things like the Open Technology Fund's Secure Usability and Accessibility Lab. We've also worked with Internews and their UX Fund and their Adoptable program. And we work with a lot of projects through the Prototype Fund in Germany. So as you see here, we sort of frame this in 3 columns: resourcing and practice. And this is where we work with teams on their projects, but also in supporting their processes and developing capacity on teams to allow for usability to be a focus. We also do some of our own research and developing of resources, and we do a lot of cultivating of community through building a practitioner movement, and as well through fiscal sponsorship of projects. So I'm going to take a few minutes to just go over some of our recent work, and then talk about some stuff that's coming soon. So one of the projects we've worked on the past year is working with the Fish Detect team at Amnesty to improve and build a brand for the app. If folks aren't familiar, this is a browser extension that allows you to report phishing emails, and that becomes part of a collective body of knowledge, so that digital safety practitioners can leverage the information to be able to help improve their trainings and improve detection of phishing email. So that's something that we worked on. All of the work isn't released on the Fish Detect side yet, but you can see more about that on our website. This is a project that is a little bit adjacent to the Tor ecosystem, but I think has a lot of really interesting learnings. We worked with a project called Pre-Review that's in the open science space, and they are aiming to change the peer review process by focusing on open information of open preprints, which are sort of like early drafts of manuscripts that are coming out. And they're trying to facilitate a more inclusive process. So we worked a lot with them on the design of their tool and how to address structural inequality issues actually through design. How do we make it so that people's voices are heard, that they are protected from retribution if they make controversial comments, how to actually build constructive discourse on what can sometimes be controversial issues. So that's a pretty interesting project, especially in how they handle user identity and anonymity. If folks want to check that out, I highly recommend it. A project that we have going on right now, but we've put out some early information about, is we're building a toolkit for funders to help grow their digital infrastructure portfolios. So the goal here is we're building on a report that Super Lab did during a previous round of digital infrastructure grants called Roadwork Ahead. And we're turning this into a toolkit that funders can then use to look at how they would want to and can support and engage with digital infrastructure as a concept and build it into their portfolios. We're hoping that tools like this will help funders get to know projects like Tor and others in the ecosystem and be able to fund more of this like critical infrastructure work that really helps us have an open, private, and secure internet. And then another recent research report that we just put out, we did some interviews around data and consent and digging into some of the core issues there. So how do we, how do we actually have meaningful consent? Is that possible? When we think we're being ethical in our design, what are the sort of pitfalls that come up that we that are in the sort of nuance of what all of those things mean? So definitely check that out if you're thinking about consent interfaces or data collection or really any of sort of the sticky issues that come up in technology development today. Some stuff that's coming out soon, and I'm going to give a little highlight on our work with Tor Metrics that Hiro mentioned earlier. So we're working on the usability of the Tor Metrics site with the network health team. We'll be helping to publish some future-focused science fiction stories coming in early 2022 that are looking at data cooperatives. We'll be releasing some work on analyzing dark patterns in user control on social platforms. As well, we're doing some research on secure file storage needs, and there should be some research coming out that we did earlier this year on open source funding. So to give you a little preview of what we've been doing with the Tor Metrics team, we actually started this work last year and then was put on pause because it was funded through OTF, and a lot of OTF work got paused last year. But we've done some interviews and some surveys to get feedback on the Tor Metrics site and how people use it and how to make improvements there, with the overall goal of making it more understandable, giving better access to the data, which Hiro was talking about earlier, and overall usability of actually finding the information you're looking for when you're on the metrics site. So I just have some quick screenshots of some of the prototyping work and some of the analysis work and some of the wireframe work that we've been doing. At the moment, we're actually prototyping a new site with 2 of the team members, IRL and Acute, if you see them in IRC and Matrix. And yeah, so we're excited to, hopefully this can be some groundwork to make the metrics site even more useful to the community going forward. So looking ahead, we, as I mentioned at the beginning, we've been doing some rebranding work on ourselves just to reflect our own evolution into doing more ecosystemic work and more research. We're committed overall to bring about a more just world by exposing challenges people face, co-building alternative models, and contributing to the global cultivation of transformative movement in tech. So yeah, thank you. And check back on all of our pages soon, because along with this rebrand is also coming a new name for the organization. So hopefully you will come check us out. Thanks. Back to you, Roger.
Whoa, that was a good teaser. So yeah, if you're interested in usability and user experience and you want some help from Georgia and Simply Secure or whatever they're going to be called soon, definitely reach out to them, and maybe they can fit you in on one of their current funded projects so they can do it gratis, or maybe they can work with you to do some sort of joint grant writing thing to have you as part of their projects. Okay, next up we've got Sajolita talking about Tails. Tails is an entire operating system based around Tor. You can run it from a USB key or from a VM image or other options. One of the great things about the Tails world is it comes with all of the apps that you should use, pre-configured to use Tor properly, and none of the scary apps that you shouldn't use. Sajolita, off you go.
Yep. Hi, everybody. Thanks, Roger. My name is Sajolita, and I work for Tails. Thanks a lot to Tor for inviting us. And just a small recap in case you don't know about Tails yet, even though Roger said a couple of words already. So yeah, Tails is a portable operating system that protects against surveillance and censorship. So as Roger said, instead of starting your computer on Windows or macOS, you can start it on your Tails USB stick whenever you need extra security. And when you shut down your computer, Tails leaves no trace of what you've been doing on the computer. And also everything you do from Tails on the internet go through the Tor network. 2021 started pretty good for us at Tails, as we got 1 million. Tails was started 1 million times in January. So these are not unique users, because what we're counting here is the number of boots. But it was the first time we reached 1 million uses in a month, so that was pretty cool and a good start for 2021. The biggest project that kept us busy last year was to completely redesign how to connect to the Tor network from Tails. We built a new connection assistant, which is particularly useful for users who are under heavy network censorship. For example, if you choose to connect to the Tor network automatically in Tails, now it will try to connect first to Tor directly and then fall back on using Tor bridges if it doesn't work. And that's what you can see on the screenshot. So we know that this connection assistant is far from being perfect yet, but for us it was only a first step, and we will continue improving it in 2022. For example, we want to make it easier to learn about new custom bridges from Tails. Like you can solve a CAPTCHA in Tor browser to get new bridges. That's still not possible in Tails, but hopefully it will be possible in 2022. In 2021, we also worked on a complete redesign of the persistent storage. The persistent storage is a feature of Tails that allows users to store some of their files and settings in an encrypted partition on their Tails USB stick. And with this redesign, we want to make it possible, for example, to create a persistent storage and disable some of its features without having to restart Tails, like it's the case right now. And since the code is not ready yet, and we'll only release it in 2022, I thought about telling you a bit more about our design process. So whenever we work on big changes like this for Tails, we always test our design with users using paper prototypes, like the one you can see in the picture. We ask people to use the paper prototype as if they were using an actual computer, and this helps us improve the usability of our design before we start writing the code. In 2021, because of COVID, we couldn't do this test in person as we used to, and so for the first time we had to do them remotely, and actually it went pretty well. So that's also what you can see on the picture using a camera. We asked people to join us on a video call, and it's interesting because we ended up testing our design with more diverse people. Like we had people joining us for the tests from Mexico, from Uganda, from Ireland, from Greece, and from Malaysia. It was pretty fun. It gave us very good results, and it was super cheap as well. And last, Tails is also funded by donations from passionate people like you. And we're also running a fundraising campaign right now. So if you like our work, please consider donating to Tails as well. And all right, that's it. Thanks for your attention. And thanks again to Tor for all the amazing work, because Tails couldn't exist without Tor. And I'm passing the microphone back to Roger.
Perfect. Thank you, Sajolita. And it's always exciting to hear more about what Tails is up to, because of, I think, a lot of the extra sensitive users that I talk to who especially need privacy end up as Tails users, and they benefit a lot from having tools like that exist. Okay, so that wraps up phase 2 of our State of the Onion. We heard from Nathan about Guardian Project and the future and how the metaverse will work. I encourage you to go back and watch Nathan's recording again and again and again. We heard from Allison about Library Freedom Project and helping to teach librarians and get libraries to be able to make the world a safer place. We heard from Nick Merrill, Calyx Institute, about their operating system and porting Onion Share to Android, and generally helping phone users gain control of their devices again. We heard from Arturo in Uni, measurement of censorship and interference around the world, and data sets and applications that you can run to help contribute to the data set. We heard from Connor, SecureDrop, helping journalists and newspapers use Tor, rely on Tor, and helping people talk to them safely. We heard from Richard talking about Ricochet Refresh, which is the peer-to-peer decentralized onion service to onion service chat. We heard from Georgia from Simply Secure talking about what their organization does to help people who are developing tools for internet freedom do them with users in mind and think through to make sure that they're building the tool that people actually want. We heard from Sajolita from Tails, an entire operating system based around Tor that builds everything that you should want correctly. And I should point out that we missed a lot of other things: Onion Browser, Onion Share, other organizations on our ecosystem like Citizen Lab, Localization Lab. We could have heard from Kutch, Briar, other groups that are building things with Tor, but we'll leave a few of those for next time. And I'm going to wrap up phase 2 and hand it back to Gaba to close this out. Thank you. Here you go, Gaba.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you. And thanks everybody for watching through all this talk and your support for the work we are doing. The Tor Project is a non-profit organization and is supported by donations and grants. If you think that this work is important, a donation will make a difference, as we said before through the talk. Your donation will be matched by Friends of Tor. You need to go to the donate.torproject.org and use any currency of your choice to make a donation. We also don't want to end this state of the onion without remembering our friend and coworker Karsten Lusing. He was part of our community for the last 13 years and passed away in December last year. Thank Karsten for all the amazing work you did with Tor in the last decade. We miss you dearly. With this, we arrive at the end of the presentations. Yeah, here we have the blog post. If you want to read more about Karsten and his work, we have a blog post in the blog.torproject.org. And with this, we arrive at the end of the presentations. Thanks, everybody. We hope all of you enjoyed this talk. Until next year. Adios. Au revoir.